Canada must be prepared for a worst-case scenario. This is the government's paramount responsibility, Mr. Speaker. So to the Defence Minister, I ask, what meetings has she had with Cabinet and her allied counterparts to prepare Canada in the event Russia acts on their threat and retaliates?
Government is prepared for any eventuality. We are putting in across-the-board measures to support Ukraine in this situation. We have NORAD modernization as our priority. We are working very closely with our American counterparts, and we will leave no stone unturned for the safety and security of this country, this continent, and indeed Ukraine itself. Thank you, Mr. President.
Russia has 40 nuclear-powered weaponized icebreakers. Do you want to know how many Canada has? 0. Russia has 18 military bases near Canada's Arctic border, whereas we are struggling to get one naval base up and running.
Shameful.
Yesterday, Russia's foreign affairs minister said, quote, "A third world war will be nuclear and it will be devastating." These remarks are deeply concerning and present a serious threat to our national security and public safety. So I'm asking the government, what measures are they taking this seriously, Mr. Speaker? I'm not quite convinced by the Minister of Defence answers. What meetings has she had to make sure we are prepared?
Yeah, great question.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to assure my honourable colleague and this House of Commons that we are indeed prepared for every eventuality, including the information that we have received relating to nuclear oversions that Mr. Putin has been making. I would like to say that we need to be non-provocative and we need to be rational in this situation, and we need to act together as a country and support each other in this time of need. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
General Eyre, I've been reviewing some of the media that you've been doing in recent months and quite concerned by some of the things that you've been sharing with Canadians of the state of our military and our military preparedness. In May 2020, you mentioned, given the deteriorating world situation, we need the defence industry to go on to a wartime footing and increase their production line. You went on to say, we're facing a security situation in the world that is as dangerous or more dangerous than the end of the Cold War. You'd also said Canada is not nearly as secure as it once was. Our understanding throughout the study that we've been having is that with the conclusion of the Cold War, our infrastructure, defence capabilities that went along with our NORAD infrastructure has been neglected, as has perhaps our Canadian military. Can you comment on that, given in the context of what you're saying, that we may be in a more dangerous situation than, in fact, during the Cold War?
So, Mr. Chair, thank you for the question. I think that the comments that you attribute to me are reflected in my opening statement as well about the urgency of the security situation that we are currently facing. I am concerned that as the threats to the world security situation increase, as the threats at home increase, our readiness is going down within the Canadian Armed Forces. That is the reason why we have embarked on what we're calling reconstitution. Reconstitution is a military term that is used, it's a military operation after a large-scale operation to rebuild, rearm, re-equip. While the pandemic has not been kind to the Canadian Armed Forces, our numbers have shrunk. And so we're embarking on a priority effort to get our numbers back up, recruiting, retention, so that we can provide that readiness. But readiness is more than just people. Readiness is also based on training, it's based on equipment, and it's based on sustainment. And we're working in those other three areas as well to make sure that we can provide the training that is absolutely, or the readiness that is essential so that we can respond at scale and at speed to the needs of Canadians. But we have lots of work to do in front of us.
Thank you, General. You were also quoted in the Toronto Star just today regarding more to what you're saying, but that the rebuilding process needs to occur on an accelerated timeline, and that the shortcomings that you've discussed today are preventing the Canadian Armed Forces, more specifically, quote, from being in the position it needs to be in order to excel as a modern and combat-ready force. And further, you went on to say that ultimately these personnel shortages are, and I'm going to quote you, jeopardizing the readiness and the long-term health of Canada's defence capabilities. So can you outline for the committee, just add on to that, how serious is this, and how serious does the federal government need to be taking these investments that clearly are critical to our national security?
So, Mr. Chair, this is a challenge that not only every Western military is facing, but we're facing it here at home as well, with labor challenges, with the real challenges in the workforce, and that's reflected in our own numbers as well. I am very, very worried about our numbers, and that's why we're putting as a priority effort, the reconstitution of our military. And so what we're doing about it specifically, well, we are looking at our recruiting system. We've staffed our recruiting system to 100%. We are streamlining the recruiting system. We've brought in a retention strategy, but there are many more things that we continue to work on to ensure that the quality of service that our members experience is what it needs to be. You know, let's face it, nobody joins the military to get rich. And what we offer is something transcendent, the ability to serve your country. But we have to make sure that the quality of service is extended to such aspects as financial security for our members and their families, quality equipment that they can work on, modern equipment, quality infrastructure that they can have, and meaningful employment. And that means meaningful overseas deployments as well as meaningful employment here in Canada.
Thank you, General. Can you comment on the importance of reaching our 2% spending commitments for NATO? Is that a relevant number? Should we be trying to reach that as quickly or at an accelerated rate, as you've said?
So, Mr. Chair, it's not my position to talk about the specifics of our defense spending and any arbitrary target, but I will tell you that the military that we have today is not the military that we need for the threats that are appearing in the future. And so we need to continue to look and assess those threats and make sure we've got the capabilities to address those emerging threats.
General, just with my last minute, would you say that Canada is prepared for any eventuality in terms of defending itself?
Mr. Chair, any eventuality is a pretty broad characterization of the security environment, and we have to deal in probabilities because the imagination could run wild. And so we need to... Sorry.
I was just going to say, when the war in Ukraine, the Russian invasion first broke out, I had brought the question to our Minister of Defense, Minister Anand, to ask, is Canada prepared for the threats that Russia is making, not only to Ukraine, but to the world and those who help defend Ukraine? And she responded that Canada is prepared for any eventuality. But given your comments and what we've learned during the study, I'm very concerned that that is not the case. Just with my concluding few seconds, can you comment on what needs to be done today in the coming months to ensure we are prepared for the most likely or any eventuality?
So, Mr. Chair, as I stated, we need to rebuild our readiness so that we can respond with sufficient number of forces at the speed required. And so that is what we are focused on right now, those 4 elements of readiness that I talked about.
Thank you very much, sir.